Hello, my buttons. Isabella here. Isabella Necessity on her story bicycle. What with all this lockdown, me and Dillis, the story bicycle, we haven't been able to go on our usual adventures. We have been keeping it local. And local for me, well, that's Dartmoor, where I grew up. I've just cycled, Dillis, up out of the village of Holme, and I am standing here on Holme Moor. And do you know, that reminded me of one of my favourite stories. I'm going to tell it to you now. The story bicycle is about to begin to tell you the story of the Dartmoor midwife. And there it is. She was called Merida, and she lived down in the village of Holme, and she was a wonderful midwife. All the parents went to her when their children needed to be born. This story, it began one summer's night when the dark grey clouds were scudding across the moor, landing over the village of Holme, where they opened their weight of water and let it down. And Merida, well, she thought that the best thing for it was to go to bed, and so go to bed she did. And she was out like a light until she heard the knocking. Well, at first she thought it was the branches against the window pane, but it was very persistent. And so she got out of bed, opened wide the window, and looked down, and this is what she saw. A pixie gentleman riding a horse, and that horse looked as though it had ridden many a mile, steaming and sweating though it was. The pixie gentleman looked up, and he said to Merida, "Please, will you come and help me? Help my wife. She's having a child, and there are not many pixie children with us now." Well, Merida took one look at the weather, and she said, "I'm not coming out on a night like this." But then the pixie man promised her gold, and she soon changed her mind. And she felt his pixie hand in her big human hand. And he helped her up onto the back of the horse, and away they rode. Out of the village, up over the hill, past Venford Reservoir, and out over Princetown, and beyond, out over, until she came to a side of the moor she had never seen before. And she felt that small hand in her big hand again, helping her down from the horse. And she looked around her, and she could see a hovel made of granite boulders, full of mud they were, held together by cobwebs, and this rickety old door. Well, inside wasn't much better. It was dank and dirty, if I'm honest. There were rotten old potatoes in the corners, mice skittering around. But Merida, she was a professional. She only cared about the mothers. And so she could see the mother lying on some green cloth in the corner. She went to her, held her hand, mopped her brow, sang sweet songs in her ear, and in no time at all, out popped the little baby boy. This little lad, scrap of a lad he was, no bigger than your hand, born angry, red and squawking. The pixie gentleman, he went to another room, and he brought back a little pot of ointment. "Put this on the child's eyes." And she rubbed her finger around the waxy ointment, and she put some on the child's eyes. Straight away that baby plumped out like a cherub and quieted. "This is good. This could be very useful for me in my job as a midwife. I wonder what it does." And Merida, well, she put some on her own right eye, and she was not in a filthy hovel anymore. She was in a fairy palace, and the woman lay on an oak-carved bed, the child asleep in her arms, and the smell of beech-nut bread. But when she shut her eyes, well, it was filthy and dirty and dark again. She said nothing. And after a time the pixie gentleman came and he took her outside, and he was true to his word. He gave her the golden coins he'd promised her, and he thanked her from the bottom of his heart. And she felt his small pixie hand in her big human hand again, help her onto the back of that horse, and away they rode once more, out over the moor, back to the village of home. And she went into her cottage. She slept like a baby herself that night. When she woke in the morning, well, she tested her magic eye. She looked at the flowers that had been half dead in the jam jar the day before. They were as though they had just been plucked. Dew they had on them. But then she looked at the golden coins, and they were glinting golden. Because I don't know if you know this, but sometimes pixie money can come back and just turn to brown leaves. I am going to go down to market, said Merida to herself. And so she took a pony and trap down to market. And she opened her magic eye wide when she was there. And she could see vegetables of all colours, breads of all types, and a lovely selection of local cheeses. But when she shut that magic eye, well, nothing but a few teddies and turnips. It wasn't all she saw, you know. She could also see that pixie gentleman. He saw her, and he walked over to her. With which eye do you see me? And with a trembling finger, Merida pointed to her own right eye. Well, the pixie gentleman, he took in a big breath. And as he blew out, he whispered these words in her ear. Our world, it's not for you to see. She couldn't see him. All she saw was the teddies and turnips. But she knew they were there. And she got her shopping and she went back up to her cottage, and she did know that they meant their thank you. For every now and again she would find half a dozen eggs, a nice pat of butter on the doorstep, once in a while a golden coin. And she did know that they were there. And she hoped the little lad had grown up well and happy. And next time that you are out in your wild places, open up your senses and see what you can see and smell and hear and feel. And that, my darlings, is the story of the Midwife of Home from me, Isabella. Thank you for listening.